On today's episode of the MilCom Founders Podcast, we'll meet Dr. Lawrence E. Henderson Jr., founder and CEO of Business Operational Support Services, BOSS LLC, a coaching and consulting firm empowering people-first cultures and transforming organizational leadership. Dr. Henderson's path began with service as a U.S. Army officer, where he built a foundation in resilience and mission-driven leadership. With a Ph.D. in organizational leadership and over 20 years of experience as a chief learning officer, principal trainer, and executive coach, he's worked with organizations including Pfizer, the U.S. Navy, and Clorox, guiding teams through meaningful change. As a PCC-certified coach, TEDx speaker, and professor at Morehouse College, Dr. Henderson's career centers on one belief: when people lead with clarity and courage, organizations don't just evolve, they excel. His story is one of service, strategic insight, and a deep commitment to helping leaders and organizations show up fully and perform at their best.
Welcome to the MilCom Founders Podcast, where we champion and celebrate military community business founders. In each episode, we will talk with a MilCom business founder to learn how they work through various obstacles and opportunities in business and in life. I'm your host, Rod Loches. Let's meet today's guest.
Hey, welcome to the MilCom Founders Podcast. I'm your host, Rod Loches. The goal of the MCF podcast is to champion and celebrate military founders while we educate and inspire others. Today, we get to champion and celebrate Dr. Lawrence Henderson, a retired Army officer, CEO of BOSS LLC, and a fellow Ohio State Buckeye. Go Bucks. Welcome to the show, Lawrence. Appreciate your time today. That's for sure.
Thank you, Rod, for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm going to enjoy this conversation, and everybody else will too. So thanks again. But hey, let's start with pre-military. Tell me about, growing up and to the point of, what was that impetus for you to join the military? Where did that happen?
Yeah. So it is not one of the sexy stories that you might give some. I was called to duty, but it was me sitting and sifting through all my dorm mail at Ohio State, sitting in the dorms. And there was this one little card, one of them postcard size things that says, "Do you want to be a leader?" And I filled out the little card. And I must note the words on there that really captured mine is, "Do you want to be a leader? And would you like some free food?" So those two combo messages were on the same little note card. Filled it out. Just so happened that card belonged to Sergeant First Class Donahue, who was a National Guard recruiter, who called me, invited me to a session. But by that time, I heard Army, but I was more focused on free food. And by that time, I had invited like 5 of my buddies for us to go get free food. I sure did. And I got there. The message of training, of an opportunity for tuition, reimbursement, and all these other benefits, I latched onto. I was the only one that ended up in basic training that next summer. And that was the journey for me. And then upon returning home, not knowing that he was a crafty recruiter, introduced me to the reality that he said, "Hey, yeah, you went to basic." And he was like, "What are your thoughts about ROTC?" Because I was going into my junior year. And so he got double credit for me in one swoop. And so I transitioned into the ROTC program, which is the simultaneous membership program, where I was able to not only get tuition paid for, but serve in the Army National Guard in Ohio, and was able to navigate the rest of ROTC in college by being a weekend warrior.
Mm-hmm. And then did you stay in the Guard, or did you go active duty?
No. So again, the conversation is, the progression is going to be about mentorship and leadership and kind of this transition. And we had an admin NCO who I thank to this day for opening up just the understanding, because I had all intentions to stay in the Ohio Guard. I was going to find a job, do whatever I was going to do. But she began to ask me a series of questions about, hey, what was my reasoning for staying in Ohio? And I had none other than I've been here all my life. And she introduced, it was almost like an infomercial. They should have put her in recruiting. But she was like, "Hey, what are your thoughts about active duty? Like, there's can be some acceleration." She broke it down to me. And then I pivoted and turned active duty and spent 12 and a half years actual active duty. So no retirement for me. It was just separation after my third deployment to Afghanistan. And so again, grateful for that time and the lessons I learned along the way.
Well, well, thank you for your service again. That's an amazing story. That's very similar to what I did in the Ohio National Guard as well. So that's a very interesting story. Probably not the same recruiter, but
No.
that's for sure. So a little bit about your family.
Yeah.
Who is Lawrence Henderson, Dr. Lawrence Henderson, when he's
Yeah.
not working and helping people learn how to lead their teams?
Yeah. So my family that's still based in Ohio, I am the only one that escaped, living now here in Georgia with my wife, of 21 plus years. And so I'm one of 7 kids of Lawrence and Barbara. And so me and my brother are the youngest. We have 5 older sisters. And some of those core values that, again, some people associate to the military, I learn those early when it comes to service, to excellence. Learn those as a family, as a part of a big family unit, and then married into a family with my wife. Strong family ethic. One of the things that I loved about my journey, having such a huge foundation of family, core value, service, the Army and the military enhanced it, as it pertains to what it meant to me. And so service is in my bones. One of my dad's favorite scriptures was Ecclesiastes 11:1. It talks about cast thy bread upon the water, and in due season it'll return to you. Growing up, I had no clue what that meant. But then over time, it was just being in service of others without expectation of return, because that's what you do. That's how you live. And so that translation into military and the grounding principles of leadership for me, it just created ripples for me.
It's amazing. At 7, you had 6 brothers or 5 brothers. No, 5 sisters and 1 brother.
Yep.
I imagine that taught you about leadership, survivability, figuring things out. Adapt, improvise, overcome. I mean, I'm one of 6, so I get that, understand that. That's for sure. So, wow. So you joined the military and you went active duty, 12 and a half years.
Yep.
What are some of the things that you learned while being in the military that translate to life, to business? Being a leadership coach, you must have a whole bunch of those learnings.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the most foundational that I latched a hold in came out of FM 6-22, the leadership manual, Be No Do. And I latched onto that early. And again, this is the idea of not only just what am I being, and mapping that framework for myself, being competent. And so there's some autonomy, some agency, then there's competence, but then also there is the connected part of, okay, what am I doing? So the phrase I use all the time with clients is actions over ideas always win. Because again, that you can have all the knowledge in the world, you can collect it as you've named in my title, Dr. Henderson, PhD in organizational leadership, but the very real qualitative explanatory research component of how are people behaving in the workplace, in the community, and it's in that doing that we can make those pivots, we can collect that real-time data so that organizations can win in a meaningful way. But oftentimes I notice with a lot of organizations, they know their numbers, but they don't do anything about them. And so we spend a lot of time focusing our clients on being, knowing, and doing.
That's interesting. We say for us, it's all about financial leadership. It's not just about the finances. It's about, can we lead our clients to help them understand and act on their numbers? Because just having the numbers, that's great, but unless you're going to act on them, it doesn't really matter. So
there it is.
That's really an interesting point. Let me show you a book I bought after we met, Doctor.
There it is.
So after we met down in Atlanta at MIC, which was a great event, I went out and bought this book, FM 6-22.
Oh.
I keep reading it, I keep looking at it, and I am sold on the fact that leadership is the difference. It truly is, and leadership and culture. And I would ask you, Doctor, is that don't we all have to have I'll call it a leadership playbook in each organization? Because if we all see and define leadership differently, where are we going to go? Circles, squares, but probably not straight ahead. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's like I liken it to there are 32 NFL teams, and all 32 teams have playbooks for offense, defense, and if you're a player traded to any of those 32 organizations, the way that they call plays may be different, but the execution part is what's similar. The same result is leading us towards a win. And it is in the execution of said plays is where you begin to see where the nuance exists. And so what you're talking about, one of the biggest things in research, this playbook, what we've come to understand as a gap is in self-determination. You can have a team full of players, but if the players themselves are missing these three components of self-determination and autonomy, competence, and then connectedness to the team, you could be a superstar on a horrible defense, i.e. my Cincinnati Bengals. You have a star defensive lineman who wants to get paid, and God bless, I hope he gets paid, and he was still the best player on the worst defense.
Yeah.
And so regardless of them all being professionals, it's a matter of, are we moving in the same direction to achieve the same goal? Because on one side of the ball, the offense is doing their thing. But if the other side of the ball, the defense on the same team in the same organization isn't holding up their end of the agreement, meaning alignment in what is a win, we need a total team effort. That's all phases of the game. And so within organizations, if there are elements of your organization that are playing a different game, then we have to begin looking at what is giving permission to the behaviors, to the actions that are not in alignment with what we say we want as an organization.
Recently, I read a something quote said, "There are no bad teams. There's only bad leaders,"
Mm-hmm.
and that really resonates. And if a leader, I might suggest, if they put up with poor behavior,
There it is.
then they can expect poor behavior, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's also part of that discipline thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's unbelievable. So you're in the military, and I get it, doctor, that leadership is at the core of our national defense. But how did you get an academic passion about learning about this?
It started with the authentic desire to want to be better for others. And I would love to say that that always existed, because there was a period early on in leadership for me where I was the one that I probably would get labeled a toxic leader, because there was some environments that I was socialized in that craft. And even though I thought I was fighting my best against it to be opposite of it, some of those traits stuck. And I, in turn, began to act in accordance with the things that I said I didn't want to be. And it was in this understanding, and it happened in the Army, my first 360, where I was the one they say, hey, these are the people you send your 360 to. So they, again, shouldn't be all your favorite soldiers or your favorite civilians, but mix it up. Mm-hmm. Well, I did it, all my favorites, air quotes. And they gave me the business. And It was in that moment, the education began, that if the fork in the road, right? I think every leader who is worth their weight in anything can vouch, like, you have that moment of which road are you about to travel. And the easy road for me would have been, you know what? I've been getting results. Let's keep traveling that path. And the very real reality that I have data in front of me that people are telling me I am harming them, and therefore it is impacting how they desire to show up. And so I took this path, this journey of learning oneself, because leadership is from the inside out. You can't outwardly start this practice. You have to understand what it is that you're allowing to be true for you and then begin to reverse engineer. And there is some unlearning. There's some unlearning of the bad behaviors that, again, that are real data points for people, and then begin to replace it with the stuff that actually is impacting people towards desired outcomes, towards positive interactions, towards, again, we do hard things, but we could do hard things well. And so it was that study of what that looks like to be a force multiplier. I heard us have that conversation. And there's a book that I love also that I got handed by a mentor, Multipliers. And literally this book talks about multipliers and detractors. That was me. In that education of understanding, like, oh man, this has a look, it has a language, and I don't want to be that. And it was and then that was head first into coaching and understanding coaching not only as a force multiplier, but the humility of what coaching is and should be. As, yes, I have a lot of background, I have a lot of experience, but when I'm in a session with a client, they are the most important person in that session. Not my expertise, not my CV, my resume, but their collective expertise and them regaining access to it. And so it was these practices, and again, becoming a practitioner of the work, not a pontificator, that I learned that, man, whenever space I'm in, I can literally deploy my core values of respect, integrity, service, and excellence, which acronym to RISE. If I can see that operationally in every engagement, man, I have a sauce. I have a framework that I'm going to continue to deploy, and then multiply with every interaction I have.
Well, doctor, the maturity, I mean, you were probably what, 24, 25 years old when that happened? So I give you a lot of credit for having the maturity at 24, 25 years old to recognize that you had a choice of which path you're going to take. And you took arguably the harder but the better choice of, okay, I'm going to take this to heart and learn and grow through this challenge. That's I really appreciate your ability to do that at 24, 25 years old.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Wow,
Well,
cool.
I tell you what, Rod, I was hopping through my own understanding of not knowing at the time how long that road would be, because here I am 20 plus years later and still evolving, because there is no arrival in this. And another reason why I choose to be a professor for undergrad students at Morehouse College, teaching leadership and professional development, because there's a new reality happening from a professional standpoint. Oh, excuse me. And this new reality that exists is we're now engaging a generation who didn't get gifted how to talk to people, how to communicate. And so now, how do you lead someone who is sitting and waiting for answers?
Yeah.
How do you lead through that? And now it is really aligning on what they care about. And I can't choose that for you. And so that is what I deployed for myself, rewrote that mission statement, and that's what has us here today.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think it's almost like a sandwich effect right now, because we've got that generation, whatever, who won't take notes, who, all those things. And then you got AI on the other side. And for me, this is why leadership is becoming the centerpiece of at least what One Degree does and provides to our clients, because they might think they could possibly get it from AI, but they got to know the right questions to ask. They got to have the right structure. And that's why that leadership piece is becoming so important. And I'm kind of saying, it's about, where did I write that down? I should know this by heart by now. It's about teach, coach, lead with our clients. And to teach, coach, lead, you have to have permission from the client. And for me, it means you have to have a great relationship with them, because otherwise, are they going to trust you? Are they going to listen to you? Or are they going to act in their own best interest? So I don't even know all the full actual academic terms of teach, coach, lead yet, but I see that as critical for our success and our clients' success.
Yeah, there was an article as we were going into the pandemic, Harvard Business Review that was titled Leader as Coach. And it was written by an academic and a business leader. And the one thing that these two gentlemen quickly connected was this idea that teach, coach, lead. And that the coach element was one of the bigger leader characteristics of the future. And it's the leader who has the ability to ask better questions. Because again, this is all, and again, the humility, not thinking less of myself, just thinking of myself less, not trying to apply what got me here won't get us there. And and that collective understanding of there could look totally different for my people. And so if I don't invite their voice, invite their unique perspective into this space, I am actively participating in reducing data collection. And so if I don't ask open-ended, good, reflective questions, then I am assuming people will tell me what they need. Or I'm also assuming they know how to describe what they need. And so and you said teach, coach, lead. One thing that's, and again, we talk about the generations in the workplace, this assumption that the majority of our growing workforce, their education experience is not mimicking that style. Their education experience in most cases came from teach, test, move on. No child left behind.
Right.
And so everything became, hey, I'll wait till you teach it to me. And if you don't teach it to me, I guess I don't need to know.
That's right.
And so we've socialized out problem solving, critical thinking, unless your child's just so happen to be in sports or all the rest, where they learn those other skills. And then that's when they gather relationship building, all the rest. Like it's such a, and that's the other geek in me that I'm like, ooh, that's where it's at. And we now have an opportunity when it comes to experiential learning in adult learning, building team building exercise, retreats, like those are a mainstay in how we deliver programming now. Yeah. Because oftentimes a new hire gets hired and they never have an experience with the team that they're on now.
Yeah.
Something hit there. Something hit there.
Yeah, you saw my excitement. You absolutely saw my excitement, because I was going to share with you, and I wrote it down, is for 4 months recently, we tried to hire a new team member. You know, we had the ads out on Indeed, XYZ, and it was all about, do you know this and do you know that? And, well, we went through a couple we do trial interviews, or working interviews, paid working interviews, and we couldn't find the right person. So I threw out these AI help assisted ads. I said, heck with that. And doctor, what I did is I went and wrote a completely crazy ad, put it on Indeed. We ended up with 3 people I wanted to hire. I only needed 1, but we hired 2, because it was all about, where have you taught? Where have you coached? You know, show me examples of leadership. And the people that saw these questions just gravitated to it. And they were like, I can do that. I'm good at that, because the hard skills can be learned. It's those soft skills of relationship building, teaching, leading, growing, collaborating. And it worked. I was like, oh my gosh. So AI doesn't have it all figured out yet. But again, that gets back to the person, me, who was asking it to do the wrong things for me. Mm-hmm. And once I got that figured out, we ended up with 2 new great team members.
There it is.
And and that happened because I surveyed my team while I looked around. Said, who's doing really well with clients? Who's struggling? She taught, she coached, you know, and that was the difference. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, what you began to do, Rod, and I know you have it written down now. Most organizations accidentally stumble upon their competency model, where you are, you know what? I want more rods. Okay. If you can't hire another rod, how do you develop one?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very intentional practice. And so again, it's just like be no do. Be no do are macro umbrella topics. What are the attributes? What are the
Yeah.
competencies to assess someone is being or becoming? And then, okay, what is the competency on? Okay, you know what to do because most position descriptions are based on technical ability.
Mm-hmm.
But also, what you now noticed for yourself is, okay, what do you do to enhance
Right.
what you say you are? And so now from a leadership perspective, some of the biggest competencies that we've seen consistently across organizations, even the leaders that executive leaders I coach, even me and you, and what I get from a lot of leaders is there's one, a humility that, again, depending on our workforce,
Yeah.
at a certain level, it's almost expected because you've lived a life, right? You had to work an entire career, and all of a sudden you need to have 30 years of experience before you actually have humility. But we tell young folk like, oh, you want to be the CEO today, but where they get it from? They were watching us. And so now it's like, oh man, okay, so I need to posture. No, that's not what we're saying. There's authenticity, like, oh man, I don't even know how to spell that word. But now you're telling me I need to be it. And so now it's really, okay, what are we practicing? And again, and one of my favorite, I love a good movie, Gladiator.
Uh-huh.
When before, as Marcus Aurelius is telling his son, hey, it's gonna be Maximus. And his son was like, hey, you wrote this letter of the tenets and these core values. And I looked at this list and I said, I don't have any of those. But what I do have is dot, dot, dot. And how many times is that indicative of the workplace where I'm finally getting the feedback that I've been begging for and it's not what I was expecting?
Yeah.
And I have this reaction. But if we stopped making people guess about their future with us by being able to have the practice of feedback. And what does feedback mean? I'm effectively and actively communicating with someone.
Yeah.
That is literally something that is measurable that you can bake into a system. And so when most organizations, you talk about the business aspects of this and what becomes repeatable, it are the things that we have identified that are important to the longevity of seeing the right behaviors in our organizations. And if we don't multiply those, then what else are we allowing to lead as a
Yeah.
behavioral practice?
That's right. That's right. So, Doctor, let's talk about Boss. I think it's a pretty cool name that you even came up with for your business. And but let's you have this passion, you have this education, you have a life moment that you learned from, and you saw your parents leading. I mean, they built a church. I mean, you've been surrounded with leadership all your life. Let's take a step back. Tell me about some of those learnings that you saw in your family building that church.
Yeah. So I mentioned that scripture earlier from my dad, and he modeled it. And what it looked like was leadership and practice for my family before they started their church. Our lives consisted of volunteering everywhere. So it was, going to nursing homes on Sundays after Sunday service for my dad to preach a message to the nursing home residents and us, his children. He had, like most people say, you have your own baseball team, football team. Well, he had his own built-in choir. And so we were in service as his choir anytime he went to preach. And then what that also connected to was my dad was a coach. He was an educator for 30 years. And so he took us to football games, to track, and he coached track, and he coached all these sports where he was modeling what it looked like to persevere. And one in particular, his favorite sport, track and field, and in particular, the event of the relay race. And this idea that if you don't pass the baton, you can't finish the race.
Right.
And so his thing was, it was always practicing, handoff, and again, stick, and the instructions of that. And in life, that connected point, as I go through teams now, and again, it's an example of succession. You can't make it around the track by yourself if you don't hand that baton off correctly. And succession in organizations is the same way to me. And so that connected point of all those life lessons that I was fortunate to watch, to observe, I now go into organizations and we train that way. That, hey, your commitment, not only for yourself, but what is your commitment to share what you've learned today? Because these are the things that force multiply when we don't hoard information. And I learned that as a family. And of course, one of those biggest things is mealtime, and the lessons learned at mealtime, especially on Friday night, pizza night.
Yes.
When you're young, and it was like we learned to love edges and corners, because that's the only thing my little my little stubby arms could reach. But it really was that the lived example of my parents being in service of others that instilled it early, unconsciously. That, and again, I think if I attribute that, the fork in the road in the direction I took, it is truly understanding early, and again, not having the words fully, but did I truly understand the impact I could have on someone else?
Yeah, that's amazing. Great story, wonderful story of your family. That's for sure. In Ohio, thin crust Ohio pizza, Casanos, Marion, Donato's. We love the corners and the crust as well. It's like grab it. Before we get back to the house with the pizza, the corners were already gone. If they made it home, that was a miracle. Unless when my mom was there, she got the corners. That's just the way it was. So she got to set the rules for that. But so tell me about Boss. How did you decide to take all this passion and figure out how to put it into a business and help more people learn how to lead? How did you do that?
Yeah, I would like to say the training ground for the belief that I could do it on my own started kind of corporate training, where I was developing different approaches to delivery. So micro trainings, 2-hour courses, to longer form full day trainings, to several days in a row of training, connecting a workshop together. But it really was this idea that, yes, could I do it for an organization and have some impact? Yes. But there was some permission there that I needed to be deployed into other parts of the business, and to where now I sat with my wife and we were like, okay, I had the LLC from the first year I transitioned in 2015. And I was sitting somewhere, got just back from a John Maxwell training session. And at the time when I transitioned out the Army, because I had done so many things while I was in uniform, I came out and I was heading kind of in an HR direction, but not really sure where I was in HR. I started making these name badges for myself and these business cards where I was calling myself a business operational support specialist. And when I would go to networking events, people were like, what is that? And I'll break down, come my time in the military, and it allowed me to practice my message early. And I was sitting there one day and I was like, you know what? I just want to establish an LLC just to make sure I have it. And again, I was praying and I was sitting there. I was like, man, why am I being pulled to this? And then I was not knowing what the name was. I saw one of my business cards and I was like, oh, business operational support services. And I was like, yeah, I like it, boss. And so the logo that we have today was made by a young woman that we were going to church with at the time. She just graduated from SCAD, so Savannah College of Art and Design. And I told her what I wanted, and she got the name, and that's the logo we have today. That got created back in 2015. And now the work we do is steeped in the foundation of organizational leadership, because we understand if you build a good foundation, even if you got to tear something down to the studs, the foundation is sound. But also what we also know is a truth today, there are some organizations that are built and their foundation has cracks.
Yes.
And so being able to come in, not judge where they are, but really along the way be that development partner that we can speak some truths, and we can build some new stories for them. And again, not negate what happened, but also co-create what they need things to be in the future.
So what does a successful engagement, a good engagement for you look like?
Yeah.
Doctor, tell me about that.
Yeah.
What's the size of client and
Yeah.
engagement size, all that stuff?
Yeah, so we've had the fortunate pleasure of having several different industries as clients, and even work that we do as a sub for some other organizations. And so a typical one for us, I'll give an example of one of our recent ones. And this one's a fun one because I've been allowed to pull in a lot of my research and data. And so we typically can go across, it was set up as an 8-session engagement where we were doing 2-hour micro sessions. That was a series built from the framework of communication. And all underneath that, we were going through psychological safety, emotional intelligence, leadership fundamentals. And one thing we love to focus on is experiential, because this is not a sit and get when you bring us into town. It is, hey, it's a bit of teach, it's a bit of do, and then we're going to debrief. Because again, we understand the iterative process of behavior change. It's not going to happen overnight. And so what we developed and what we put into place is a situation and a learning experience that is multiple touches over time. That way, you have a session with us, you get some space, some time to practice some things, and then at the next session, hey, how's it been going? And so now we give the ability to check in. We like to call our learning spaces the gym. So that's where you sweat it out, and we create these spaces for some co-creation so that people can feel like, because oftentimes when you're changing and it's clunky, there's some esteem that you're like, I don't know if it really works. Why? Because you've been practicing the other stuff so long. And so again, we also tell organizations, you perform how you practice. And so if you don't give yourself new opportunities to practice differently, then you won't act differently. And so that's why we space out engagements, because we want to reinforce behavior change and the ROI for you as a leader, saying, you know what, I just spent this investment for my team to change, but I'm not seeing it. Well, why? Because you hired us for a day.
Right. a day at a point in time, no reinforcement, no, I don't know, intellectual rigor, we'll call it.
Yeah.
No chance to put it in place.
Yeah.
And so when somebody hires you, let's just use 1 degree as an example.
Yeah.
So if we were to hire you, Doctor, you are one of your team leads, leadership coaches. What would that look like? It's 2 hours at a time. Help me understand that.
So that's the best part. It's a co-creation. So again, we love to be integrated into what the operational cadence of the business is, so that there's another psychological element of learning will not stick if it feels disruptive, especially to someone's life. So and again, now that's optimal. Are there times where you have some leaders where you're going to volunteer them to go to training because you have had some experience? Yes, those also exist as well. And we hope as your trainers, you've given them that feedback before they show up. But engaging, y'all hire us, we would sit down and it would look just similar to a session like this. Hey, what are you seeing? What do you want to see? And then we build you out something that makes sense for you. And here's the thing that I love that we do with our clients, the real-time customization between sessions. Because we're not waiting until all of it's done to receive feedback. We're getting feedback and we're having surveys after each session, so that me and you are getting back together. It's like, all right, Rod, after that session 1, got a little sticky in there. And again, this question right here asking, hey, if we could improve one thing immediately between now and the next session, here's the themes for this question that people's like, it got a little sticky, because once we start talking about the management engagement, people didn't feel safe to bring things up. And so here's where I want us to pivot to from an experiential standpoint and all the rest of these things. And so real time changing, so that we're honoring the employees involved and the organization's desire to see things change. And so that would happen. We schedule it out, and then we begin. And so again, the iterative process begins of whether it's just sessions or sessions and coaching, because the idea is people have a learning style. And some things can be done in sessions, and whether we make these all in person, a mix of hybrid, virtual, that also is a component of it. And the touch points that can become more intimate via coaching. And so we have a team of coaches. Most of our trainers that we bring into learning environments are certified coaches through the International Coaching Federation. And we do that for a reason, because it also supports them being able, if there's something that happens real time in a space, like example, we kicked off some training the other day with the organization where we're going to get into some sticky things. And we always make this announcement. Our intention is not to activate you via unbeknownst to us. We may hit a stressor. You may have a reaction. Understand you have qualified people that we can have sidebars with you if needed, so that you can honor yourself in this learning space, because our intention is never to activate. And we're also aware it may happen. So we're trained to engage that as well.
Wow. So as you're building Boss, what's one of those opportunities or obstacles? I know our time grows short, that you're working on now, and how are you going to get through that opportunity or obstacle? Or one that you have?
Yeah. I would say one of the biggest obstacles that is in the way of Boss right now is me. And you probably are going to resonate with this, Rod. We had a consultant call last week, and this is the realities of what's happening for 2026 already. And again, already having some homework that I owe you, me hoarding what needs to get done. And I get told, and I'm probably going to get told at 3:00 at our admin team meeting, by my team, is like, hey, what do you have that you should be giving to us?
Yeah.
And that's their favorite question. And my admin reminding me to make sure that I CC her on anything that involves my calendar, because she has done a masterful job playing Tetris with my calendar and moving things and moving clients. And I would say I continue to be the obstacle in the bottleneck, if you will. And that's just me building more trusted teammates from a senior consultant standpoint that can hold those meetings on my behalf. And so I'm getting there. I have several over the last several months that I've built relationships with that have allowed me to do other things. And there's still the very real reality that I need to do more of that.
Got it. Very cool. So I'm kind of going into the wrap up here, but some quick questions. What's an insight you would want to share with other veteran business founders that you're like, here's the number one thing that we should all, as veteran business founders, be thinking about?
Don't discount the skills that you already have from an operational excellence standpoint. I would say deploy those sooner. One in particular, military decision-making process. Being able to assess a situation, pull in the right data, and then execute on the data you have. I think that gives us a leg up when it comes to the acceleration in the iterative process, so we can collect data on knowing how to pivot. And most business owners I meet, I'm a part of several business incubators with people that don't have our military background and maybe an op excellence kind of edge to them. And they get stuck in the analysis loop, and they fit that risk to step forward. But I don't see that in the most successful veteran entrepreneurs, because again, it was like, you know what? I need a data point, so I'm gonna go do it. And I'm not going to beat myself up about getting it wrong. I just know that's a pivot. And giving ourselves permission to pivot, I think, is something we have access to that oftentimes we forget, that how often it's like the mission statement was one thing, but it's like we used to say in the infantry, the enemy gets a say so too. And
Yeah.
so you can write it, but you pivot as quick as you need to, because it may be a mission imperative. This even goes into people who are currently on the team and people who are no longer with the team. That ability to say, hey, I'm going to give you this feedback, and guess what? That doesn't mean you get another chance. That just means you get another chance somewhere else. It's not with me.
Right.
And being okay with that, because we have somewhere to grow to. And so I think that's the one thing I'll tell them: don't negate your past. Pull it forward. Pull the things forward that make sense, and then go from there.
Got it. Great. Hey, what's a resource that you've used to help build your business? What's something you've used?
So there's a book, and it's probably right behind me, Traction. So in Entrepreneur Operating System is something that has definitely helped me, particularly the dashboarding of keeping the numbers in my face constantly and being able to review those with the team. So much so now, my team actually puts them back in my face about where we're the leading and lagging indicators of our growth. And again, teaching the team something simple. It reminded me of military decision-making process and just how to put it in structure.
Yeah.
But that's been a good one that I learned early, that I now pull through and use actually in a couple of different group coaching cohorts that I'm a part of is EOS.
Got it. Yeah, I think EOS is a great, I'll call it management structure or system or framework.
Yep.
But it doesn't, how do you layer leadership on top of that to make those right decisions and insights and all that? So yeah, absolutely,
definitely,
very cool. Hey, what's something the audience can do to champion and celebrate you, Doctor?
Yeah. Just engage with us. So one of the things we don't be a hoarder of information. So as they listen to this conversation, share it with others. And again, and understanding that I'm one of the many voices that people should be listening to, and we're all beating the same drum that leaders, you need to grow your ability in leadership so that you can help your team accelerate in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And so you either good, bad, and different, you can either grow your team or hurt your team. And so developing is a part of the process. Very true.
Very true. Are there any of the military founders that inspire you, or you think that, hey, Rod, why haven't you talked to this person?
Locally, I don't know if you met him at the MICC event. Jason Smith, who is local to me, he's a part of a couple of chambers of commerce locally. He is he's a sales guy, but also a master collaborator. And I'll also, if I would add anything to the one thing that military founders should also pour forward is our ability to just find the resource. And there's so many in our community, from veterans, that just force multiply that way. If you don't have it internally, there's probably a veteran doing it. And so Jason locally he's been that guy to resource and find the right people to pull into conversations.
Fantastic. Lawrence, what's one question I should have asked you and I have not asked you yet?
We said go Bucks early, but do I believe we're going to win the national championship or beat Michigan?
Well, what do you think?
Both, yes.
Love it. Go Bucks. I love it. Thank you so much. Hey, Lawrence, so appreciate and enjoy our time together. Thank you so much. We're going to donate $100 to our military community scholarship fund on your behalf.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. There'll be one given out to a kid that wants to go to college, and another one will be given to a kid that wants to go to trade school this year. So we're very appreciative of your spending your time with us, and that's just our small way of saying thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on the MilCom Founders Podcast. If you know a MilCom founder with a story to share, reach out to us at milcomfounders.com. For each guest on our show, One Degree Financial donates $100 to the Dick Wojcik Veteran Entrepreneur Scholarship Fund, supporting education for children of a MilCom business owner. Stay ready.